Coliseum. Dan Schulman, Jay Billis, Brooke Weisbrod, and just underway between Portland State and Gonzaga in what is now a 3-3 tie. The winner of this one will play Purdue in a semifinal tomorrow. Good ball movement. Strother open on the wing, and he knocks down a three.
Julian Strother is playing very well of late. At 20 points, 14 rebounds against Kentucky. He leads this team in steals, and he's the top rebounder for the Zags.
Portland State, the Vikings playing out of the Big Sky, picked 7th in their league, but a road win over Oregon State already. We saw Portland give North Carolina all that the Tar Heels could handle a little bit earlier on today, as Cameron Parker, the point guard, a transfer from Montana, is called for the travel.
Portland State likes to extend pressure. They want to force turnovers, and Gonzaga's had some turnover issues. You know, they've not been as secure with the ball, certainly, as they were in the last couple of years. Last two games, 20 turnovers against Texas, 18 against Kentucky.
Last year, they turned it over on 16% of their possessions. This year, so far, to your point, they've turned it over on 23% of their possessions. These are not numbers that make Mark Few happy, although, to be fair, they've played, 3 of their 4 games have been against real quality opposition, whereas a lot of teams a lot of big-time teams have not started their season with a lot of tough games.
Yeah, but to your point, that 23% turnover rate, that's 320th in the country right now. That's not Gonzaga basketball. And obviously, without Andrew Nembhard running the point, there's an adjustment that needs to be made. But it's an adjustment that everybody needs to make. It's not that you can just throw the ball into Nolan Hickman's hands and say, okay, go out and do exactly what Andrew Nembhard did. Everybody has to take care of the ball.
Hickman, the sophomore from Seattle, the primary ball handler, but a lot of them share it.
One of the things with Portland State, when they put that pressure on, they foul a lot. I mean, their opponents shoot 30 free throws a game.
Yeah. Knocked out of bounds. Jace Coburn will use a lot of players, and he'll stalk that sideline up and down with a lot of energy. Seven on the shot clock as Strother gets ready to inbound. Tough spot deep in the corner, and he finds Bolton. Bolton, the pull-up, off the glass and good. That's pretty.
Boy, good weak side help from Hunter Woods, but Rasir Bolton just pulled up and kissed it off the glass. He is such a good shooter. He's got tremendous speed.
Michael Starks is fouled by Nolan Hickman, and Starks will be headed to the free throw line for the Vikings.
Portland State running things with speed and trying to spread out this Zag defense. Just a really nice pull-up right as Hunter Woods, the lefty, was coming over from the weak side to cut off the drive.
So Starks at the line, the senior from Miami, a couple of years in junior college, 1 year at Georgia. This is his 2nd year at Portland State.
Starks is more of a primary handler, defends pretty well, and is a very good passer.
Now, Coach Coburn tends to start his strongest defensive linemen. Some better offensive options tend to come in off the bench. And again, we will see liberal substitutions for the Vikings.
He plays 13 guys routinely. Good job by Hickman to get to the middle to start the break.
And the easy flush for Watson.
You have to attack pressure at the point it's applied. And passing out of that double team, Hickman came right to the middle, and they were off to the races. When a team presses you, you have to break that pressure to score.
Nice spin move and a foul as Bolton has to foul Cameron Parker, who was on his way to the rim.
And you can tell early on that Portland State wants to turn Gonzaga into individual defenders. That cut to the middle was a big deal, and you saw how Drew Timme was able to shield off the defender, Isaiah Johnson, so he couldn't get there to try to either take a charge or maybe try to block or bother the shot of Anton Watson.
And Parker at the line right now for the Vikings. He is the assist leader in the Big Sky, and he had an NCAA record 24 assists for a game for Sacred Heart back in 2019. That's remarkable.
It's a lot of dimes to drop. Credit to his teammates for making the shot.
Absolutely. You can't have one without the other. Hickman, a deep one. Way too strong. And this is Hunter Woods, number 25. Big contributor off the bench for the Vikings, averaging better than 12 a game. He was looking up top for his teammate Isaiah Johnson, who got tangled up and slipped, and the pass winds up sailing out of bounds. Gonzaga up by 4 in the early going. ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Nike. Just do it. Portland, 2 arenas here for the men's side of both the Phil Knight Legacy and the Phil Knight Invitational. Gonzaga with a 4-point lead in the early going over Portland State. Dan Schulman, Jay Billis, and let's say hello to the third member of our team tonight. Here's Brooke Weisbrod.
Well, if you're thinking about getting Drew Timme a gift for the holidays, make sure it's no assembly required. So growing up, Drew actually hated putting together Legos, and now that extends to IKEA furniture. He shared that on his Timme Time podcast. But he is able to piece together a Gonzaga offense that's averaging 82 points a game, contributing 21 of those himself. He says, I can score, but I'm much better when I'm wheeling and dealing. I asked head coach Mark Few what exactly that meant, and he said Timme does not have to go from A to B. He's a guy who can improvise and be good with or without the ball.
Well, I can speak from experience, Brooke and Jay. The ability to play with Lego and the ability to put together furniture, those are 2 completely different things.
Different skill sets.
Different skill sets. I have one. I sorely lack the other.
Yeah, I've heard you're really good at putting together Legos. Well, Timme hasn't taken a shot yet. Obviously, still early. He'll get plenty of them.
Hickman tips it out to Watson with 7 on the shot clock. Strother looking to create, forces it up, around and out, follows it, and we'll have a held ball, but the possession arrow will give it to the Vikings.
Well, Julian Strother is an outstanding rebounder, but most of his rebounds come on the defensive end. He's not known as an outstanding offensive rebounder, but he went after that. Portland State's really put good pressure on Gonzaga. The problem is that Portland State's turned the ball over, and Gonzaga's been able to capitalize on that.
How about the corner 3 for Hunter Woods, a 6'6" junior, a transfer from Elon to bring the Vikings back within 1.
Well, he knocked down a few of those against Oregon State in that Portland State win. He had 19 points against Oregon State in Corvallis.
Strother stumbled or tripped and fell into the defender and gets called for the charge. I don't know if we'll get another look at it. He might have stepped on his own teammate here. I don't know what happened, but he just stumbled into Johnson. Offensive foul. And Portland State looking for the lead. Woods. Boy, he's got a lot of arc on that jump shot, doesn't he?
This is where Strother can excel. He defensive rebounds. He can rip and run, take it the other way.
Watson with the shot fake, cut off on the baseline, and they turn it over.
And sometimes you have the wrong guys handling the ball in situations and turns into a turnover. And that's something that Gonzaga throughout the course of the year is going to have to clean up. This team, as good as they are, and they're really good, they're still a work in progress trying to figure out exactly who they are.
Chet Holmgren and Andrew Nembhard both moving on to the NBA. Timme coming back, obviously an enormous boost for the Zags this year, but it feels like maybe the questions about how high the ceiling is for this team start in the backcourt. Can Hickman and Salas, 2 guys in particular, step into larger roles this year?
Yeah, and Malachi Smith, who transferred in from Chattanooga, who was the Southern Conference Player of the Year. He's going to be a big piece to this season as well. I mean, it's not maybe not as deep of a team as Mark Few's had in the last couple of years, but it's really talented. But you just don't take Andrew Nembhard, off the team and tell somebody else, just tap him on the shoulder and say, hey, go do what he did.
Yeah.
Doesn't work. I wish it worked that way, but it doesn't work that way.
Everything started with him, and he was really good at it. We had a chance to see his brother the last few days out in Maui. Ryan Nembhard, a terrific player for Creighton. A foul against Gonzaga, and that gives the Vikings another opportunity to take the lead. Isaiah Kirby has checked in. That's him with the ball. He is a 6'4" junior out of Tallahassee Community College a year ago. Spinning and hitting, Keyshawn Saunders, the junior from Brampton, Ontario, and the Vikings have the lead.
A dribble drive offense that tries to get downhill, draw help, and then play out of it. You don't draw help, they'll take you on one-on-one. That's exactly what they'd like to do, is get one-on-one matchups against Gonzaga.
They are a confident bunch. Their coach instills a lot of confidence in them, and he believes they can play with anybody on any court any night. That was his message to his team before the game, as Timmy puts the Zags back on top.
Yeah, Timmy doing a great job of getting an angle, and all Gonzaga had to do was throw it up to that angle, and it was an easy score.
Boy, a lot of ball movement offensively for the Vikings, and another three goes down for Hunter Woods.
Hunter Woods can rebound, leads the team in steals. I mean, he made over 100 threes at Elon. He transferred in after 3 years there. And he was an all-CIF player from Pasadena, Muir High School. If you're all-CIF, you're legit.
That guy is legit. He's a future pro. Julian Strother with a three.
Yeah, future pro. Julian Strother probably is the best pro prospect on this Gonzaga roster. He went to the Combine last year. He had the best lane agility time of anybody at the Combine.
Decided to come back for his junior season.
Right behind the defense in the corner, ready to shoot. Got those feet set as the ball arrived. And he keeps his feet pretty close together. I mean, he knew he was going to pull the trigger on that. But you'd probably like him to be a little bit wider when, if he gets closed out, you know, you could still adjust and drive it. But he's really a good player. Plays hard at both ends.
Kirby got a switch, fadeaway jumper short. And down to Malachi Smith.
That's one of the strengths of Anton Watson. He can switch out and stay with a guard. He's a terrific defensive player.
Salas, counter.
Not a shot that Hunter Salas would have hit last year consistently, but the Gonzaga staff, and give credit to Salas, they broke that shot down. He's been working on it, and he's been patiently improving.
Big-time recruit a year ago, ranked in the top 20 coming into last season. How about the improvisation there from Isaiah Kirby to knock that down?
Kirby's instant offense. I mean, coming into this game, he scored 50 points in 60 minutes for Portland State. You know what that means.
Play him more.
Play him more.
I've worked with you long enough. Out of bounds and back to Gonzaga. All right, Jay, improvise your way to break right here.
That's all I got.
That's all you got. He's the strong silent type, folks. Actually, I'm kidding. He's not.
Well, of the many unique features that you will find about head coach Chase Coburn, you can see his AAU head coach journey. The head coach journey began at 18 years old, coaching 16 to 17-year-olds, becoming a head coach by the age of 23, JUCO at 27, living in the dorm with players, and then at 29, an assistant at Portland State, eating spaghetti and iceberg lettuce with ranch, gross, to save money. And then during the COVID year, 2020, Portland State had a great shot at the NCAAs, but the pandemic canceled those plans. What they didn't cancel was Coburn's spontaneous wedding to his fiancée, Lindsay. They did it at half court at the Big Sky tourney. What's also interesting is that his parents own a karate school. Competitive spirit. He's a natural born leader. There's his mom and his dad right there. He said, I started there when I was 3. I had to lead even then. I was around it so much, watching my mom and dad do it. It just turned me into a natural born leader. It's who I am.
Brooke, thank you very much. Well, a couple of things. You don't mess with a coach who knows karate. That I know. And on one of those many stops for Coach Coburn, when he was an assistant at Howard College in Texas, the head coach was Mark Adams, now the Texas Tech head coach.
And that led to a lot of his philosophy on the defensive end. You know, no middle, active hands, switches, influence to the sideline and the baseline. But Portland State, because of their defensive effort and how this basically what you're seeing right now is essentially dribble drive motion. But they're hanging in there with Gonzaga, and they've turned over the Zags. Gonzaga has 4 turnovers already.
Starks coming back in for the Vikings. Timmy returns for the Zags. Gonzaga with a 4-point lead as we near the midway point of the first half, with the winner to play Purdue tomorrow night.
Brooke was saying that Jace Coburn's parents owned a karate studio. There was a karate studio right near my house when I grew up.
Yeah.
You know who owned it?
Nope.
Chuck Norris. They were
wow.
Chuck Norris was actually a neighbor of my parents when I was growing up.
That's cool.
I never knocked on his door on Halloween, I can tell you that.
Smith switches hands and lays it in. Nicely done by Malachi Smith.
He is a player. Averaged 19 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists last year at Chattanooga. Just a big physical guard. And there he is grabbing the rebound with both hands.
SoCon Player of the Year last year. Good fake. Salas will step in and knock down the jumper.
Well, he's really improved his shot mechanics. You can see all the work he's put in. I think a lot of times you have a McDonald's All-American that has the kind of athletic ability and prowess and potential of Hunter Salas, and sometimes people aren't willing to let him develop. And Mark Few, I remember last year him saying, everybody calm down, he's going to be really good, give him some time to develop, and he's done that.
Wow. Bolton with a tough off-balance shot to answer the bucket from Satterfield at the other end.
How good was Rozier Bolton against Kentucky? 24 points, had 4 threes in that game. Mark Few against Kentucky went kind of playground. He used Drew Timme and just gave him the middle of the floor and said, look, just take Oscar Tshiebwe.
Which he did. Just as Cameron Parker takes his man and lays it in now for the Vikings.
Well, Mark Few can't be happy with his weak side defense there. I'm not sure that Drew Timme ever saw that drive from the opposite side. This is a shot, Dan, that players work on all the time. You spend hours just throwing it up over your shoulder after taking some contact. But he never took his eyes off the rim, even when he was going down. Never took his eyes off the rim.
Important guy, of course, transferred over last year from Iowa State. Interesting start to the year for the Zags after beating North Florida handily in their first game. Their next 3, Michigan State, Texas, Kentucky. The 1-point win over Michigan State on the USS Abraham Lincoln. Then they lost in Austin by 19 to Chris Beard's team, and then bounced back with a 16-point win over Kentucky. That was at Spokane Arena downtown. And if they win this one, they would get Purdue next, a ranked team. If they win that one, they could get Duke after that. And then their next game is against Baylor. So a rigorous schedule early as Timmy gets an easy one.
Yeah, that schedule you're talking about is kind of a normal non-conference schedule for Gonzaga.
Right.
It's always a murderer's row.
Well, they kind of have to do things backwards, right? Because they don't get the number of tests in conference that Power 5 teams do.
Well, they get tests because there are so many good teams in the league, but they don't get the kind of value from a number standpoint in the net.
The quad 1 wins.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah.
That goes away, whereas other teams in Power 5 conferences, they get those over and over again.
Timmy with the reverse.
His footwork is so good. He catches it on the right side of the basket and lays it in on the left.
And the answer at the other end for Woods, who's off to a nice start for the Vikings, as a block is called on Michael Starks.
The transition defense for Gonzaga has not been what Mark Few wants it to be. And you would think he wants to see that tighten up, but one thing he doesn't have to worry about, Drew Timme sets a screen, just slips to the basket, gets an easy one. You don't have to worry about Drew Timme bringing his competitiveness on the offensive end. He always does.
Here in Portland, the men's and women's Phil Knight Legacy Tournaments and Phil Knight Invitational Tournaments, a total of 16 men's teams and 8 women's teams. The Phil Knight Legacy on the men's side, 8 teams, 4 games today. Kyle Filipowski, another big game, and Duke needed all of it as they beat Oregon State by just 3. Colby Jones with 22, a career high. Xavier over Florida. by 7. And then Zach Edey with his 4th consecutive double-double, 24 points, 12 rebounds for the 7-4 center as the Boilermakers beat West Virginia by 12. So in the semifinals tomorrow, it'll be Duke and Xavier, and then Purdue against the winner of the game that we're doing right now.
Really impressed by Xavier with the way the Musketeers and Sean Miller played against Florida. You know, you mentioned Colby Jones had a great game, but Jack Nungy, Zach Fremantle, that's a really good basketball team. That's going to be a challenge, beyond a challenge for Duke. Duke's going to have to play much better tomorrow than it did today if they want to get a win.
Brooke Weisbrod was in the Vikings huddle. Brooke?
Very spirited huddle, talking a lot about communication. When Drew Timme got open on that out-of-bounds play, Jace Coburn looked at his guys and said, what are we doing? So during that timeout, it was about talk. He said, if we talk, if we put those pieces together, the score will start to reflect that. But looking at each individual guy in the eyes, saying, guys, we have to talk more and we have to guard.
I think it's the thing, if you go to 100 practices with 100 different coaches, I think the thing you'll hear most consistently is, you guys got to talk more on defense. We hear it all the time.
That is said a lot, and it's something that every player can do. But if you're talking, usually you're in the right position. And you know, I think the best defenses are usually the loudest defenses, and that can be intimidating to play against a defense that really, really talks.
Bolton knocks down a pair to extend the lead to 10. Starks handling for the Vikings. Knocked away by Watson.
Now this is the end where Gonzaga needs to separate. The Zags can score almost every time down, but they need to get stops.
What a great offensive rebound there by Isaiah Johnson. It's out of bounds, but it still belongs to Portland State.
And thus far in the game, Gonzaga's got 13 field goals, 10 assists on those 13 field goals. And they're 13 of 19 from the field, 68%. But Mark Few would say, hey, look at the other side where we've allowed, well, Portland State to shoot 53%.
And out of bounds, Satterfield was when he received that pass. Boy, they are moving on offense, though. The ball's moving, the players are moving.
Well, this is a team, Portland State, that's clearly in great shape because they come after you on the defensive end, and you know they run their offense with real pace. I mean, they're not jogging through anything. Every cut is a sprint cut.
Another bucket for Strother. The Vikings suspended basketball back in 1981 after having it for a couple of decades. They reinstated the program in 1996. They have made the NCAA tournament twice, 2008 and 2009. And again, they play out of the Big Sky Conference.
It's got a proud history. I mean, Freeman Williams played at Portland State. Freeman Williams is the second all-time leading scorer in NCAA history behind Pistol Pete Maravich. The guy scored 3,200 points.
Step in by Hickman. Who says the mid-range jumper is dead?
You just did. Oh. She just reminded us that people are saying it.
We've seen, in the two games we've seen here tonight, all kidding aside, how many times have we seen guys do that, though? A lot of players are stepping in and knocking down 16-footers here tonight.
Well, but that's, people may say it's dead, but it never was. See the Nolan Hickman doing a great job with the shot fake, letting the defender Iman fly by. Just one dribble pull up. You know, basketball can be a simple game when you allow it to be, but you know, you have to put a lot of work in order to make those quote unquote simple plays. And you can see just from last year to this year for Nolan Hickman, you get that shot. Oftentimes you might try to rush it and all that stuff, and the game slowed down for him clearly.
Well, it's often said the biggest jump a player can make in college is from his freshman to his sophomore season, and the Zags hoping that's the case for Nolan Hickman and Hunter Salas, two very good young players. Timme extends the lead to 16.
Yeah, that's another one, the biggest jump between the sophomore year that's been said a lot. Umar Ballo and Zach Edey would say, well, no, look what we did between our sophomore and junior years.
Well, you big guys take longer to develop.
See, that's another myth. You're an anti-big guy.
A deep three for Bobby Harvey, a 6'4" senior who transferred in from IUPUI. But boy, Gonzaga doing a nice job getting down the floor quickly. No foul call here, but it's still their ball.
Yeah, Bobby Harvey, most of his shots are threes. And the scouting report's going to say, when number 2 catches it, don't let him shoot it from the catch spot. Make him put it on the deck.
Each team shooting the ball well from outside. Gonzaga 4 for 7 from 3. Portland State 4 for 6.
Got the switch now.
Off the fingertips of Bolton, it bounces to Strother, and they've still got 10 seconds. Timmy, a nice look. Bolton wide open. Well done.
Well, that's one of the reasons Drew Timmy's right up there in assists for this Gonzaga team. I don't think you necessarily want Timmy to be your leading assist guy, but he draws so much attention. And he's such a smart player.
Averaging 2.5 assists per game coming in.
It ties him with Watson and Hickman.
I'm in the ball screen. Parker now with Timmy on him. Kicks it back out though. Woods gets a shot off. And it's out of bounds to the Zags.
Well, Drew Timmy, so good. Usually he'd spin off there, but he's so good with his feet. Drew 3 defenders just by that, getting downhill just with that 10-foot drive, and then finds an open shooter in the opposite corner.
Strother. Boy, halfway down and out, but Timmy on the glass and heading back to the line.
Drew Timmy is a below the rim rebounder, but he gets a fair amount of rebounds. I think he can be an even better rebounder. Averages about 8 a game. Strother, the leading rebounder on this Gonzaga team, the better defensive rebounder, averages 8.5.
So if you're a below the rim guy, what's the key to getting as many rebounds as you can?
Positioning and going after it. I mean, look, most players are below the rim rebounders, but Timmy's not what I would call an elite athlete. He's not an elite run and jump athlete. He's just an elite player. When I was a kid, athlete meant you could play a lot of different sports and do a lot of different things.
Right.
Remember, that's what it meant.
Yeah.
Now athlete means, when you talked about a great athlete, it didn't just mean run and jump.
Right.
Now it means like run and jump and what's your vertical and your lane agility thing and all that stuff. How fast can you run the 40?
Bolton behind the back being hounded by Kirby, finds the open man in Smith, who steps back and drills a 3. Gonzaga now with 13 assists on 17 made field goals.
Boy, how long did it take Malachi Smith to go from the catch to the release? That's what shot preparation looks like.
Gonzaga still shooting 68%, 17 for 25. A fresh possession. And a 3 a little bit strong for Harvey, and a foul going against Gonzaga. 3:24 to go in the first half. Here with the Phil Knight Legacy quarterfinal, Gonzaga up 20 on the Vikings here in Portland. ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Lowe's. It's the best place to get everything you need for the holidays. Well, you never know who you're going to bump into at a tournament like this. Hall of Famer Roy Williams is here. North Carolina playing in the Phil Knight Invitational, the other 8-team bracket. I'm exchanging a hello and a hug with Mark Few. This is before the game, obviously, when Few was getting ready for his team to play in this game. Coming up with the Jeep halftime report, it'll be all the Thanksgiving hoops highlights, and there were a lot of them. Day 1 at the Phil Knight tournaments, men's and women's, and a championship preview. Kansas and Tennessee will battle for a title down in the Bahamas tomorrow.
So many really close games today. Overtimes, buzzer beaters.
If you haven't seen how Kansas beat Wisconsin at the end, You'll want to, unless of course you're a Badgers fan, and then you won't want to see it at all. But everybody else will want to because it was some kind of a finish. Hickman. Long rebound out to Smith. And he knocks it down. Gonzaga with its 7th made three-pointer already in the first half.
What a great job by Anton Watson to knock that ball back out to Hickman, who got it to Malachi Smith. That was just really smart by a really smart player in Anton Watson.
And Gonzaga playing 4 guards around Watson right now. The smallest lineup we've seen them have. The Vikings aren't that big of a team, so Mark Few going with a smaller group. Salas steps in. Pretty.
But he's made some really good plays in this game. Another really good pass by Watson, that diagonal pass. And Salas playing off 2 feet so he doesn't get the charge with that little push floater.
And boy, is the scoring balanced right now for Gonzaga. Strother's got 10. Bolton and Timmy each have 9. Smith 8. Salas 7. Watson 5. You get the idea. Hickman. Wouldn't go down. Tipped out by Watson and saved by Salas.
If Watson can't grab it, he keeps it alive and tips it back out, but it maintains possession.
Corner 3 for Bolton. Tipped again by Watson, but corralled by Parker of the Vikings. And give Parker the assist as Harvey rattles down a 3.
Yeah, great credit to Parker for getting the ball down court quickly. And then Bobby Harvey just setting up at the 3-point line.
The Vikings with 5 threes of their own in 10 tries here in the first half.
Yeah, they don't waste a whole lot of time in transition, do they?
I don't think we hear shot clock violation very much on Portland State. But, you know, they play a fun style of basketball. Use their depth, play with energy. Obviously playing one of the best teams in the country here in Gonzaga. And they are making plays at the offensive end. This time it's Bolton.
Already 52 points in this first half for Gonzaga.
Bolton with good defense. Look at the hands by Watson. Crossover Bolton. The kick. Smith in the corner. Another one.
I think Malachi Smith is the guy that can be the game changer for Gonzaga. If he continues to blend in, you know, he can go out and get you 30 in a given game. He's got that kind of ability. He's proven that over the course of his career, and he's mature, plays at both ends.
And they've got the makings of a really nice backcourt rotation as Satterfield knocks down a 3. Hickman, Salas, Smith, and Bolton. Those are 4 good players. It's just
really
a question
good.
of, you know, how do they work together?
I agree, really good. But there's, you know, you hate to say this about a top 10 team, but they're among a number of teams that are still trying to figure out exactly who they are. And what they look like now is not necessarily what they're going to look like in December, January, February. And last time I checked, you know, they don't give the trophy out in November. And Mark Few knows that.
Final seconds. Would have counted as the first half comes to a close, and Gonzaga puts 55 on the board in the first half, shooting 66% and making 8 of their 14 threes. A very balanced, impressive offensive performance for the Zags in the first half of this game against the Vikings. (55-31) at the half. Brooke Weisbrod is with Mark Few.
All right, Coach, an excellent offense in the first half, and seriously, you guys are making so many assists on made baskets. What is working about your offense to get so many open shots?
Well, I mean, they're a hard team to play against because they're aggressively switching everything, so it kind of takes you out of a lot of your sets and actions you like to run. So we're basically just trying to play off each other and off of penetration and see if we can find open gaps after that.
And a very fast-paced team that you're playing, so what can you expect to see from them in the second?
There's no quit. I mean, they come after you for 40 minutes. They're going to press and reach and poke and play really physical. So we got to continue to take good care of the ball and then keep finding those open areas that they give you after penetration.
Thank you.
Mark Few and the Zags up 55-31 over Portland State midway through this one here with the Phil Knight Legacy. The Jeep Halftime Report is coming your way after these messages. Welcome to ESPN's Feast Week, presented by Lowe's. All a part of the Phil Knight legacy. Gonzaga and Portland State, and some kind of offensive half for the Zags. They shot 65%. They made 8 threes in 14 attempts. They had 15 assists on 21 made baskets. And after turning it over 4 times very early in the game, they only coughed it up one more time the rest of the way. That's how you build a 24-point lead. Welcome back, Dan Schulman and Jay Billis. What do you think of their performance in the first half?
I thought after you nailed it. You know, Gonzaga didn't start off as well as they wanted to on either end of the floor, but then they caught a rhythm. I mean, to have 21 field goals and 15 assists on those 21s, most coaches would take 15 assists in a 40-minute game.
Yeah.
And Gonzaga got that in the first half. They had 3 guys in double figures. You know, Malachi Smith, Julian Strother, Rajier Bolton, and then Drew Timme was way behind with 9. But this is a really good basketball team that I think is going to continue to get better and better throughout the course of the season. That was a really solid end to the first half.
Brooke Weisbrod has more. Brooke?
Well, Jace Coburn had exact words that you just said. He said they caught a rhythm, and he put a lot of the responsibility on his guards. He felt like there wasn't enough guard ball pressure up top, which is probably why Gonzaga got a lot of those threes in the first place. So that's really where it was. And he said we've got to communicate, get better ball pressure, and it starts with the guards.
Brooke, thank you. Deflected away, and then a foul going against Bobby Harvey of the Vikings. And you can see the intensity has not waned at all for Coach Coburn.
Well, this team plays really hard, but if Portland State is going to be a threat to beat Gonzaga in this game, they've got to turn over the Zags and force them into tough shots, limit them to 1 shot. And they were only able to they forced a few turnovers early, but after that, you know, Gonzaga's been able to just have a comfortable rhythm to the game.
Hickman up top, off to Strother.
But Gonzaga's really spacing the floor effectively.
Boy, talk about stepping into a shot calmly and confidently, as Nolan Hickman did right there.
Well, just to Brooks' point, I mean, there's not a ton of pressure on Gonzaga. They're playing out of pressure situations and moving the ball really effectively.
Boy, nice little move there by Jarrell Satterfield to reverse course and bank it in.
Yeah, Satterfield's the leading scorer for this Portland State team, and he's also a really good defender. At 26 against Oregon State, that was a career high for him.
8 transfers on this Vikings roster this year as Parker comes up with a steal.
Anton Watson just casual with the ball. Mark Few did not like that at all. I mean, you know, lead or not, he wants everybody to play their hardest and best all the time.
Drew Timme not happy. He thought he had gone straight up in the air and gotten all ball. That's why he's looking up there. He wants to see the replay. Interesting kind of side spin on the shot by Satterfield, but it goes in. He's a good shooter, good scorer.
He shot 43% from 3 when he was at Texas El Paso.
Had a career high 26 on Saturday in a road win at Oregon State. But Oregon State giving Duke all they could handle. Portland giving North Carolina all that the Tar Heels could handle. Although Duke and Carolina both won their games, they're in separate sides of the tournaments here. Timme, left hand, yes.
Just had no shot there. Just a middle pick and roll replace action. Portland State switched it, so Timmy's got a guard on him with the ball in the middle of the floor and help eliminate it. That's game over.
Jacob Iman forces it up, and down with the rebound is Harvey. Iman doesn't look to score very often at all. 6'10" junior. A rejection at the rim. Iman comes up with it, and a foul going against Gonzaga. It'll be Nolan Hickman.
Nice cut, nice recovery. Portland State in the first half ran their offense with a lot of pace and a lot of speed. You know, in the second half, not as much. It's just tough to do that for 40 minutes. That's why when you play against a team that really pressures you for the first 5 minutes, so you can withstand the first 5 minutes, it's just tough to keep that relentless pace up for 40 minutes.
The three around and out for Harvey. Watson leading the Zags up the court and turns it over.
Anton Watson's made a couple of plays that have had Mark Few stamping his feet over there.
Boy, Bobby Harvey's not shy, huh? He gets that shot up in a hurry. Strother just lost it. Couldn't find it again.
Is Gonzaga too casual with the basketball right now? They're playing the last few possessions like they have a lead. You know, it's kind of like they're spending money like they have $100 in their pocket.
3 turnovers in their last 4 possessions all of a sudden after taking really good care of the basketball about the last 16 minutes of the first half. Here's a good look. Strother too strong, and the rebound down to the Vikings. Satterfield. Boy, oh boy. The time of possession not very high at all for Portland State. They want to get it down as quickly as they can and get a shot off as quickly as they can.
And we've shown Mark Few expressing some displeasure with some of the mistakes they've been making. And when you make a couple of mistakes, all of a sudden now your opponent's getting a little bit of rhythm and they become more difficult to deal with. And Mark Few's been down that road before.
Parker has to adjust and does it very nicely as he banks it home. A 20-point lead for the Zags. They were up 24 at halftime. And Parker called for the foul and a mismatch with Timmy to take us to our first timeout here in the second half. 62-42 Zags. ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Lowe's. It's the best place to get everything you need for the holidays. Now, so many games we need more than one arena. These games today took place just across the way at Moda. North Carolina got a real challenge from Portland. Pete Nance with a big day as the Tar Heels survive and advance into the semifinals. Iowa State in overtime over Villanova as they move on as well into a battle in the semifinal that you will see. Those games, that bracket will come over to this building tomorrow. Our bracket will go over to that building. But unless you're here, all you need to know is where you can find them, and you can find them on ESPN. The semifinals, North Carolina and Iowa State, and then UConn and Alabama. Tristan Newton leading the way for the Huskies with 23. Alabama beating Michigan State in their game.
Alabama's going to be a handful in the SEC, especially with Brandon Miller. That dude is the real deal.
SEC's going to be fun. Lots of talent.
And so many talented freshmen. Yeah. And the freshmen from Arkansas are ridiculous. And that doesn't even include Nick Smith Jr., who's still out. But when he comes back, Arkansas is formidable without him. With Anthony Black and Jordan Walsh.
They didn't play at all out in Maui. The Razorbacks taking 3rd place out there.
Basically a bucket away from playing for the whole thing.
Parker tries to get by Hickman, and he does. And the basket will count, and he's headed to the line.
Well, he's got a tight handle. Senior from Portland, Oregon. Yeah, you mentioned he had 24 assists when he was at Sacred Heart, but he also went to Montana and leads the Big Sky Conference in assists, assist to turnover ratio. That lefty makes a lot of good decisions with the ball. He's got excellent quickness.
And he completes the 3-point play. And for the Vikings, this game is just a wonderful opportunity. Whatever happens in this game, this is a great chance for them to play one of the best teams in the country in a big arena on national television. Only good things come out of this for a program like Portland State. And they get 2 more games coming as well. Even if they lose this one, they play West Virginia tomorrow. They get another game on Sunday. Great stuff for them before they get into conference play.
Yeah, tremendous challenge. It's a lot different from the Evergreen game.
That was an NAIA team that Portland State played a couple of weeks ago, and they beat them by 73, 113 to 40. Strother called for the travel before he could get rid of it.
And really all he needed to do was pass it out top, instead of taking it into traffic. And one of the things I heard a great teacher of the game that I've known for a long time, Kevin Eastman, said the best place to score is the other side of the floor. Reverse the ball.
And when in doubt, reverse it again, right? You can do it more than once.
Yeah, I mean, there's this, certainly not in the rule book, you can only reverse it once.
Pass deflected away, caught by Smith. Corner three for Rasir Bolton, around and out. Strother couldn't convert it.
Hickman tried to make a home run pass across court to Bolton instead of just make the next pass. If it takes two to get there, it still gets there.
Timmy cleans it up on the defensive glass.
Timmy likes to have fun off the floor. He's gregarious. He's such a character, man. He's a competitor on the floor.
Smith very patient, and Hickman misses the three, out of bounds to the Zags.
Drew Timme, one of the great offensive players in the country, goes up, gets a block using that body, then goes and gets the rebound with two hands. And then after the game's over, he'll do an ad for Dollar Shave Club and give his headband away. And
very thoughtful guy, and one of the faces of college basketball this season, without question. Well, a couple of Vikings on the weak side for the rebound, and now Saunders misses an open three. And a foul going against the Vikings as Hickman got tossed down to the court.
Timme, as you say, the face of college basketball in a lot of ways, but also the personality of the game.
Yeah.
And, he has fun with it. You ask him a question, and he doesn't give you the standard sort of cliche answer that so many players do, because it's the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
He gives you a really thoughtful answer.
Well, we saw that out in San Diego, right aboard the aircraft carrier, when he was asked about what the experience, what memories he would take away from the experience, and gave a long, very thoughtful answer to that question. And the footwork's pretty good too,
And in a program that has produced a ton of incredibly popular players, and popular among its own fan base, and just college basketball in general, Drew Timme could make a claim to be one of, if not the most popular Zag player ever.
Boy, stepped on a defender's foot and still got the footwork done.
Well, that's what footwork means.
Let's go back to Brooke.
Well, you guys know how experienced teams don't rely on the energy of a crowd to motivate them. They know at times you have to create your own energy, and that's what the Zags do. They focus on details, and they make impactful plays. They talk about charges, blocks, assists as being those energetic plays. You saw them do it right in front of you against the Spartans at the Ship. They played through a cold outdoor environment to get the win. Now tonight they're playing in a cold indoor environment. The guys walking in tonight, and they all said, "Oh no, not again."
It's funny, Brooke. We've noticed it's a little chilly in here as well, and that one of the reasons why here at the Veterans Memorial Coliseum is there's ice under the court here. They play hockey here, minor league hockey here as well, so it is a little chilly. Although in our defense, Jay and I have just come back from Maui, so I think we were going to be chilly no matter where we were.
You have to keep torturing people with that note that we just got back from Maui. But I'm glad Brooke mentioned that, because I've tried not to complain about it. I'm glad the players complained about it, because I'm quite the weather wimp, and it is chilly in here.
How are your hand warmers working out for you?
Yeah, my mittens are doing just fine. My grandmother knitted them for me. And
72-50. As Saunders is called for the foul. Well, Gonzaga just keeps on raining threes in this one. 11 made threes in 20 attempts. The latest one belonging to Malachi Smith. Well, in addition to the Phil Knight tournaments we didn't have 5 years ago, there are now 2 separate women's tournaments as well. The Phil Knight Invitational and Phil Knight Legacy on the women's side. North Carolina with a nice win over number 18 Oregon a little bit earlier on today. Eva Hodgson leading the way with 21, and that means the Tar Heels will play Iowa State in their semifinal. Stephanie Soares with 23. Phil Knight Invitational on the women's side. North Carolina and Iowa State in the championship game Sunday night, 7:30 Eastern on ESPN2. The women's bracket of the Phil Knight Legacy will begin tomorrow on the ESPN family of networks as well, with 2 more ranked teams playing. Number 3 UConn against Duke and number 9 Iowa against Oregon State. You like the floating virtual scoreboard?
I do, and I like the detail of the shadow underneath it. The fact that you have a virtual shadow underneath the virtual scoreboard.
Well, we did it with Zach Edey in the first game, and he's so big he casts a large virtual shadow as well.
Good execution of the out of bounds underneath, freeing up Anton Watson wide open under the bucket. Mark Few, one of the, really one of the great coaches in the game, but one of those like, Bill Self and Tom Izzo that are so good out of timeouts.
That assist on that out-of-bounds play for Hunter Salas, his 6th assist of the night. That's a career high. He's got 6 assists, no turnovers. Rajier Bolton, 7 assists, no turnovers. Nolan Hickman, 4 assists, no turnovers. That's quality stuff from their guards.
Yeah, again, this is against a team in Portland State that forces a lot of turnovers, almost 19 per game. And this is after 2 games against Texas and Kentucky where Gonzaga turned the ball over a combined 39 times. 20 times at Texas and then 19 times against Kentucky in Spokane.
Bolton to a wide open Smith. And that one got deflected away. I think that is Kendall Munson who came up with the block there. We haven't seen Munson yet, a 6'8 sophomore, a transfer from Pepperdine as the Vikings converted the other end.
Yeah, Cameron Parker again. He averages 14 points a game, so he's a scoring point guard in addition to leading the league in assists.
Salas, and he gets the bounce.
Everything Hunter Salas has done in this game has been under control. He's knocked down a couple of perimeter jumpers. You mentioned the good playmaking with the 6 assists, no turnovers. He's defended at a high level.
The physical tools and skills have always been there. They've been obvious. What takes Salas to the next level?
I think the shot is a big part of it. He's improved the shot mechanics. When he gets really comfortable where he can pull the trigger on that shot, then it opens up even more driving opportunities, because now teams are playing him as a driver. They're closing out short to him. And just better decision making and playmaking. He's such a great defender and a good guard rebounder. He's got all the tools to be a truly outstanding player. The length, the ability to operate in transition. But he's playing in a program where at times there have been, in the last year, better players playing more minutes. And
Strother just picked up his 4th foul on that play, getting tangled up on the out-of-bounds situation. So both teams now with 6 fouls with still over 10 minutes left in the second half.
Strother's a good comparison for Salas. It's not like he got fired out of a cannon his freshman year. It took him a while to develop, and look at him now.
Yep.
I mean, there's not a stopwatch on this stuff.
No, we talked a lot about Umar Ballo the last few days and how he's developed over the last couple of years.
And I promise you, there's nobody happier about Umar Ballo's success than Mark Few and his staff here at Gonzaga.
Parker the foul. He got caught in a mismatch trying to defend Timmy down on the block.
All right, so let me go back to my original question. Who would you put up there as most popular Zag?
He might be it. I mean, certainly Adam Morrison. I think Ronik Turioff was very popular. Rui Hachimura was very popular. They've had a lot of guys.
Yeah, you could even go back for the older people like me, back at the Dan Dickow years and all that. John Stockton would have to come up in the conversation, even though, Gonzaga wasn't ranked before Mark Few took over. Isn't that amazing?
And now it's constant. This is the 117th consecutive week. So that's like going back basically 6 years with the number of weeks of the season that they've been ranked. And they've been in the top 10, Jay, for 84 consecutive weeks.
And I think we're both the same in this. I'm pretty tolerant of other people's opinions and judgments. They may differ from mine, but I'm pretty tolerant of it. I am not tolerant of people that say, well, tell me, come back and tell me about Gonzaga's success when they win one.
Right. Can't win the big one.
That is so stupid, I can't believe it. Like, what Gonzaga has done is absolutely incredible. I mean, they've won 11 straight West Coast Conference titles. I think it's 21 overall. I can't remember the number, like 18 tournament titles. Mark Few's taken them to 22 straight NCAA tournaments. They've been to 7 straight Sweet 16s, 11 overall. They've been to the title game twice in the last 5 or 6 years. I think it's twice in 6 years. And, I mean, you know, they lost by, what, a bucket?
To Carolina.
To Carolina.
17, yep.
And then, you know, Baylor took it to them pretty good. But, I mean, you know, Baylor embarrassed a lot of teams that year. You know, you could dismiss 3/4 of the Power 5 on that standard.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
I agree with you 100%. Satterfield with a corner 3. And the Vikings shooting the ball very well from outside as well. They're 9 for 19 from three-point range.
And Satterfield, you know, it took him a while to warm up, but, you know, he's got 18 points in this one.
Boy, Timmy just couldn't elevate that one over the rim. Had a layup, tried to dunk it, didn't get up high enough. And it's a transition bucket for Satterfield. They're going to check to see if that should be a 2 or a 3. Mark Few calls a timeout, and they'll look at that basket, but I don't think Mark Few's really happy right now, Jay, with what's going on at the defensive end.
Boy, they give up another turnover, but then Satterfield with that pull-up jump shot in transition. And, you know, you pointed this out, that side spin, it looks like it's not going to go in because that side spin, it goes in every time.
For the Zags, 5 in double figures, and Anton Watson's got 9. You know what's interesting, Jay, is Mark Few's only used 7 players in this game. We have not seen Efton Reed III, the transfer from LSU. Now, he's a big guy, and this kind of opponent, this kind of pace may not be best suited for Reed's abilities, but we haven't seen some other players like Ben Gregg, Dominic Harris, who play here and there. If you fancy yourself as a national championship contender, which obviously Mark Few and the Zags do you think they've got enough depth right now when they'll need it against, you know, as the games get bigger?
Yeah, I think they do, and I think you nailed it. As in this type of game, you know, you might not play some of the guys that haven't played yet because, you know, this is a game where there's a ton of pressure, so it's a little bit more guard oriented, and so you have, you know, Timmy and Watson in there as the big guys, but you want a little bit more skill, be able to handle the ball and deal with the pressure. So that's not unusual for that to happen. You've got guys that are switching all over the place and you have to handle it.
Good ball movement. Salas in and out. And again, as always, the Vikings getting the ball up the court as quickly as they can.
Well, they need to, because grinding it out in the half court against Gonzaga is not in their interest.
And Michael Starks draws a foul on the drive. Fouled by Malachi Smith. And that takes us to the under 8 timeout here in Portland. Gonzaga 78, Portland State 60. Well, nothing wrong with the offense tonight for Gonzaga, and they've been, you know, had to play at a bit of a helter-skelter pace at times, the way Portland State likes to play, but they've been moving the ball very well, Jay, and getting good shots. And, you know, we've talked about this over the years with some of Jay Wright's teams, with Villanova back in their championship years. When you find a good shooting team, in all likelihood, they're a good passing team. They're getting good looks.
No question. That's exactly right. And this is a really good passing team. I think they can be even better.
Starks at the line for the Vikings.
This Gonzaga team I don't know if they'll be as good this year as they were 2 years ago or last year, but they don't need to be. They only need to be better than the teams this year.
Right.
And I think this team has a lot of potential to be a Final Four caliber team. And they're still like the work in progress thing. It's nice to be a work in progress when you're a top 10, without argument, a top 10 team. And I think they have the humility to realize they can get a lot better, and they're willing to work.
Well, you've seen them lose by 19 to Texas on the road. You've seen them beat Kentucky on a de facto home court in Spokane, not the Kennel, but the downtown arena, by 16. You've seen them beat Michigan State by 1 on a neutral court. It feels to me there are a lot of teams who could make a claim for being a Final Four contender this year. I don't know, there's Houston, there's Carolina, there's so many good teams but I don't know that we've got, that Baylor Gonzaga year, those two had separated themselves, and it doesn't feel that way to me.
That's exactly what I was thinking while you were talking about that. Was this year I think there are a lot of really, really good teams. Maybe somebody will separate, some teams will separate, but I don't see it. And so everybody's got to build toward March. You certainly want to win your conference, win all these games now, but they're not handing out the trophy now. And how many times have we seen a team where you see them early on in the season, you say they got some potential, I don't know. And this time last year, I thought Purdue was a Final Four team. And I think Purdue's defense held them back. They could score with anybody, but they weren't consistently getting stops.
Yeah. You and I just saw Arizona. We just saw Creighton, not to mention Arkansas, San Diego State. I mean, you could make a heck of a case that Arizona and Creighton are just about as dangerous as anybody around.
Yes. I think this year,
Timmy, just as the horn sounded.
There's no panic in Drew Timme. But I think this year, with the way the game is being played and how physical you can be, being really good defensively is a must. I mean, you're not going to outscore teams this year when you can guard like this.
So Gonzaga, a program known more for offense than defense. Do they guard well enough, in your opinion?
Well, that's what we're going to have to find out. I think they've got the capability of it, but last year they had Chet Holmgren back there, who was one of the best shot blockers, shot changer, rebounders in the country.
Nice block from behind by Kendall Munson.
And so it's tough to just take that kind of thing away and say, hey, be as good defensively.
Right.
You had an extraordinary, I mean, we were calling him the unicorn last year. Something we hadn't seen.
And Vern Harris has a call away from the ball on the inbounds. Going against the Vikings and sending Anton Watson to the line, number 3 on Woods.
I have always been a big fan of Anton Watson, the way he plays. He's a really good defender, and he's got great hands defensively. He rebounds and he passes the ball, he blends in. There's always been a little bit of a feeling that you want more, you want him to blossom into some offensive star. But if you're willing to really look at what he accomplishes out on the court and watch him intently, he's a really good player.
Well, and he's blended in with different stars every year as some other guys have come and gone.
Absolutely. His feet are so quick. And
doesn't it feel to you like Timme loves doing that? Like when the situation requires it, loves bringing the ball up the court?
Yeah, and you go back to what Mark Few how he used him against Kentucky. He just put him in the middle of the floor and let him go one-on-one against Oscar Tshiebwe.
How about Bolton from about 28 feet away?
Not only one of the best shooters in the country, Rasir Bolton's one of the best cutters, off-ball cutters in the country.
The Zags now 12 for 22 from three-point range, led by Malachi Smith, who is a perfect 5 for 5. Nice pass, but Watson unable to run it down and keep it in bounds. And now Timme coming out, likely for the night, as we see Ben Gregg for the first time. Sophomore from Clackamas, Oregon. So he's out there with Watson, Salas, Smith, and Hickman. As the Timmy family applauds, they got another game coming tomorrow, and we'll talk about this more as time allows. Gonzaga and Purdue means one of the many interesting matchups is Drew Timme and Zach Edey.
Yeah, and he's not going to guard Zach Edey by himself. He's going to have help. And it may not be Drew Timme that's assigned to him. That's something that you could see Efton Reed, the transfer from LSU, who's 7 feet tall and more athletic with elite size and more of a rim protector with his length. I think Efton Reed could be one that comes in and does that. Anton Watson can guard him, but you're not going to give just one. It's not going to be just one person that's effective in guarding Zach Edey. That's going to have to be a team effort type of thing.
Purdue with an 80-68 win earlier tonight over West Virginia. So assuming that this one stays the way it looks like it's going, that means that Portland State would play the Mountaineers tomorrow. And then again, Gonzaga and Purdue for a spot on the championship game on Sunday.
Maybe Shemek Karnowski's got a little bit of eligibility. He can come back and try to help guard Edey.
Now that's a fair fight size-wise, at least, right?
It might take all the great Zag big guys to come back, and Corey Violette come back, muscle him a little bit.
Satterfield a miss, kept alive by Iman, knocked away by Gregg. Now Gregg the ball screen to free Salas. Hickman the drive, and he's fouled. And we'll be at the free throw line when we come back. We will size up the big man matchup for tomorrow, assuming that Purdue is going to play Gonzaga. That and more when we come back.
We have talked about this being the year of the big guy. And because I always seem to start left to right, let me start right to left with UConn's Adama Sanogo, Indiana's Trace Jackson Davis, Hunter Dickinson from Michigan, and then the big guy in the middle, Zach Edey of Purdue. And go a little over to Drew Timme of Gonzaga. I don't mean to pass over Armando Bacot of North Carolina and Oscar Tshiebwe of Kentucky. That doesn't even include Umar Ballo and Azuolas Tubelis of Arizona. But this matchup, Edey against Timme, the two top scorers of their respective teams. Zach Edey averaging over 20 points, over 13 rebounds, and over 3 blocks per game. To say that he is a presence for Purdue is an understatement. But I'm not sure that if I were Mark Few, I would put Drew Timme on Zach Edey. That's just, to me, begging for foul difficulties and having Drew Timme sit next to you during the game. I mean, I'd start Efton Reed on him, and Efton Reed hadn't played in this game. I don't know that there's any reason why other than it's not the type of matchup for him. But maybe maybe Gonzaga's saving him for tomorrow. Say, hey, save up everything for Zach Edey.
What about Zach Edey trying to defend Drew Timme at the other end? How does that?
I'm not sure he'd do that either.
Yeah.
But look, it's a little easier for him to do that. One thing about Drew Timme is he's not going to step away and shoot a lot of threes. So if he's out setting ball screens, you're going to see some openings for the handler more so than Timme, because Zach Edey stays back in drop coverage. Usually he's not going to get too far out. He's certainly not going to switch onto a guard.
Gregg lays it in, the assist to Watson. That is the 24th assist of the night for the Gonzaga Bulldogs. Parker spinning, hitting, and heading to the line. He's had a terrific second half.
He's a good player. Yeah. Both he and Satterfield, they work so well together. But he changes speed so well. Spun back against solid defense and made a play. He doesn't put up those numbers for nothing. He had 23 points, 6 rebounds against Portland.
And Efton Reed III, the transfer from LSU, into the game for the first time. And now for the Zags, as Mark Few goes a little bit deeper, he's taken Watson out. He's also brought Dominic Harris into the game for the first time. Harris, a guy who missed all of last season, a medical redshirt situation with a foot injury. That's him with the ball. Smith just bodying his way into the paint and finishing strong.
He's built like a running back. He put up such big numbers at Chattanooga.
Now got a team high 21 on the night.
And that won't be the last time he leads this team in scoring.
That was Trey Wood, who has just checked in the last minute or so, missing the 3 for the Vikings. They've got a game with West Virginia tomorrow. Greg into Reed. And Salas is fouled.
That would be what Salas did right there, that drive. When the ball came from the corner, not to get too much into this, but the real play was to reverse the ball, because he took it right back into the teeth of the defense, didn't cause the defense any problems. He wound up getting bailed out for the foul. But really, the thing to do there is reverse the ball.
Jace Coburn, the head coach of the Vikings, has just taken 2 of his star players out in Satterfield and Parker. Wanted to give them a little bit more of a breather before their next game tomorrow. And Wood fouled on the drive, and we'll get a chance at the free throw line as Drew Timme is taking off some of the gear. Headband coming off. One of the many prominent players who decided to come back and play some college basketball. You and I have talked about it on air and off, NIL, and that now these athletes have more opportunities. If they feel they're, maybe borderline candidates to go pro or not, they can come back and do very well for themselves and get a little bit better and stay in school a year longer.
Well, I've heard Drew Timme say it, and he's referred to both himself and Oscar Tshiebwe. Without NIL, neither one of them would be back for another year. And it's not to say that there aren't other reasons that they're coming back. I mean, he loves being in college. He loves playing for Mark Few and with his teammates and all that. And I'm sure that Oscar Tshiebwe says the same thing. But it's a factor, and it would be for anyone.
He certainly has fun. That much we know. Salas into Reed. Salas left alone, misses the 3. Gregg with a rebound. And the putback. Ben Gregg on the board.
Ben Gregg is a good player, and it shows you how many good players are in front of him that he doesn't log more minutes.
Yeah. That's actually his second field goal tonight, so 4 points and 3 rebounds in 4 minutes. Yeah, he's got a lot of ability.
Coming in from the far side wing, nobody blocks him out, takes it to the other side.
Flexing his muscles. I love when the stars get just as happy for, the guys who don't get to play a lot when they do well as they do when they do something good themselves. Because every day in practice, who Drew Timme's working against, fighting against, banging against? Ben Gregg.
Yeah.
Well, do the Zags get into triple digits here tonight? Yes, they do. And Smith making it look easy. He has had a sensational evening. 9 for 12, 5 for 5 from 3, 23 points on the night.
I'm impressed with all the people that have stayed to the bitter end on Thanksgiving. That's pretty impressive.
If you're Jace Coburn, how do you feel about your team's performance tonight?
They played hard, and look, the margin suggests that they didn't play as well. They played hard and played well. I mean, this is a team that, they beat Oregon State that just took Duke to a one-possession game.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many positives for Portland State and so many good players.
About 4 seconds between the game clock and the shot clock here as we wind down.
It's a heck of a catch.
And just as impressive a reverse for Dominic Harris.
And Dan, that's what's not playing that often at Gonzaga.
Right,
a guy that can do that.
Right.
Holy cow.
And he can barely get on the floor. 102-78 is the final as the Zags shoot 60%, make 12 threes, and advance into a semifinal tomorrow night that we'll have for you on ESPN as they take on Zach Edey and the Purdue Boilermakers. This should be a lot of fun and quite a matchup. A look at where things stand in the Phil Knight legacy. Duke and Xavier in the top half of the bracket, Purdue and Gonzaga in the bottom. The championship game here in this side will be Sunday. And no matter what happens, there's a lot more good basketball coming your way here during Feast Week. So 102-78 is the final. Malachi Smith leads with 23. Drew Timme had 18 points and 6 rebounds. And the Zags are into the semis to take on Purdue tomorrow. What a game that we'll have for you on ESPN. For Jay Billis, Brooke Weisbrod, and our entire crew here in Portland,